Welcome to Immigration Insider with your host, Attorney John Nicelli. This podcast is an educational forum on how to deal with complex aspects of immigration and pitfalls to avoid. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, johnnicelli.com. Now here's the host of Immigration Insider, Attorney John Nicelli.
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Nicelli. I'm speaking to you from New York City, and I would like to tell you today about special visas that only apply to Mexican, Canadian, or Australian citizens. Many people, unfortunately, don't know about these visas, and unfortunately, are, because they're unaware, unable to even apply for anything that they may be eligible for. So basically, for Canadian citizens and Mexican citizens, they fall under the auspices of the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement. That agreement was previously known as the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, which many people know about. But unfortunately, not too many people use it. So basically, the requirement is that if you have a university degree and you in a particular area and you have skills of a particular job or coming to the United States to fulfill a particular job, you would qualify for the type of visa. Now, Canada and Mexico have slightly different requirements. So I'm going to start with the requirements for Canada. First and foremost, you have to be a Canadian citizen. Secondly, you must have a university degree in a particular area of expertise that you want to come to work in the United States. So there are, unfortunately, under this type of agreement for Canada and Mexico, you can only come for certain occupations. There's an occupation list of professions that's posted by the United States State Department. Just to give you an idea, you can be an engineer, an economist, a graphic designer, a lawyer, interior designer, a mathematician, like a school professor, different types of chemist, a meteorologist, a physicist, a plant breeder, pharmacist. Almost any occupation you can think of is probably on here. Not all, but many. So if you have a job offer to fulfill one of the occupations that's on the list, then you can easily apply to come to the United States. Now, in the case of Canadians, a visa is actually not even required. So what you do is you have to have a job offer. And the job offer from the company in the United States must be very, very specific. That job offer must state, why are you coming to the United States? So the purpose of your entry. You must have a detailed description of what you intend to do when you arrive to the United States. What are your job responsibilities? What's your anticipated length of stay? The maximum stay is for 3 years. What's your educational qualifications for the position? Do you have a degree in the specific field of the job that's being offered? Do you have any evidence of your compliance with the Department of Homeland Security rules? One of the rules is that you have to have a passport. Okay, if you don't have the passport, you're probably not coming. Can't have any criminal record, so you have to be just as honest as everybody else and have no bad background. And what arrangements have been made to be paid? You must be paid at what the United States would be considered the prevailing wage. You can't be paid a very low wage, far lower than any American would be paid for the same job, because you simply just won't be approved. All right, so that's the basic requirements. Now, when you apply, the way you apply is you'd have to go. You can do it in Canada. You can go to basically almost any port of entry or any place that they have what you call pre-flight inspection at airports, where U.S. immigration officials actually work in Canada. And what you would present to them is your passport, your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, your divorce decree if it applies, Your children's birth certificate, if they're joining you, any children under 21 could be included. And the bottom line is that it's very, very easy. You usually can get it within a few hours of applying at one of the airports or at the border post. They're generally a pretty, I would say, liberal in granting these types of visas if you meet the qualifications. But the job letter is what's critical. You must have that job letter, must be authentic, and realize that when you present a job letter to immigration authorities anywhere in the world, the first thing they're going to do is go on the internet to verify that. Maybe they'll go to Google Maps or something, or just to see exactly where the company is located. If they can view where it is, they may check the Better Business Bureau. There's different places that they can check online as to whether the company really exists. And they would also, many times, in addition to your bachelor's degree, if you have a foreign degree, they will want it evaluated. So an evaluation is obtained generally in the United States, and it's by evaluators who will determine if your degree is the equivalent of a United States university degree. So you can have a degree that may be called a bachelor's in Canada, but it may not be a bachelor's in the United States. So you have to make sure that that bachelor's degree is the equivalent of a United States bachelor's degree. Now, another thing that's very important is that you cannot use your work experience. If you don't have a university degree, you can't use a work experience in this particular case. Okay, you will not get you have to have the degree. Second thing is that spouses and children are included, children under 21, as I said. Also, there's no dual intent. So in other words, if you come to the United States, you'll be issued a visa generally for 3 years. You can renew it every 3 years for the rest of your life. It's not an issue. Sometimes issues come up where, what if a Canadian citizen or a Mexican citizen is married to a foreign national from a different country? So let's say you're Canadian or you're Mexican and you're married to someone from China, Argentina, Brazil, anywhere in Europe, anywhere in the world other than Canada or Mexico. Your spouse and your children under 21 will be allowed to enter the United States under the same type of visa. Okay, now that I've explained to you about the Canadian citizens, I want to explain to you about Mexican citizens. Now, the criteria are basically the same as far as the educational requirements, the job letter, the requirements, and the positions. You can only come to the United States if you're going to do one of the positions that are on the list. Now, so the only difference with Canadians and Mexicans is that Mexicans must file for a visa. In Canada, you're not required to file for a visa. You just have to present yourself at a border inspection station. For Mexican citizens, they must file for non-immigrant visa. That form is called a DS-160, and that's filed at any embassy or any U.S. consulate abroad, anywhere in the world, actually, not only in Mexico. So if you're Mexican citizens, you can come, you meet the criteria, no problem. But you must file for that visa. And then once you issue the visa, you present that for inspection at a border post. So at the border or at an airport in the United States, you say, listen, I went to the consulate, I was approved for a visa, here's my visa, and then they will admit you into the United States. The same rules apply as far as dual nationality. So if you're married to a person who's from a different country and you're Mexican or you're Canadian, that spouse or child under 21 can enter in the same type of status you'll have. The only issue is that they are not allowed to work in the United States. Children can attend school, but spouses cannot work in the United States. They can accompany you for as long as you're here for the 3 years. You can renew it as many times as you need for the rest of your life, the rest of their lives, but until the child turns 21. The child turns 21, no longer eligible for this type of visa. All right? So now I want to, if anyone has any questions, they can always send an email to John at johnnicelli.com, and we will always try to answer an email if we can. Now, for citizens of Australia, the procedure is slightly different. For Australian citizens, you don't have to go by the list that applies for the Mexicans and Canadians. You can do basically any specialty occupation. And a specialty occupation is defined as the theoretical and practical knowledge application of a body of a highly specialized knowledge and attainment of a bachelor's degree or higher degree in a specific field. So whatever position you're being offered, that position must be one that requires a university degree, but again, not limited to the list, as I mentioned earlier. Also, another requirement is you must file what they call a labor condition application with the United States Department of Labor. A labor condition application is an attestation by the employer that he's paying the individual who wants to come from Australia the same wages or higher than he would pay any American citizen or permanent resident in the United States. You have to assure that there's no strike or lockout at the employer's place of business. You must post the notice of a labor condition application of the employees at the station in 2 places of the employer's place of business. Now, unless you have a union representative, then you can provide it to the union representative. And you must also provide it to the employee. So when the employee arrives, they know exactly what they're supposed to be paid, and it should match whatever's in the job letter. And again, the job letter has the same exact requirements. You have the purpose of your entry, a detailed description of your responsibilities, the anticipated length of stay, the educational qualifications for the position, and your basically your pay arrangements. Now, the difference between this type of visa, which is an actual visa you have to apply for at the consulate, or in the United States, if you're changing status, it's only valid for 2 years, but you can renew it every 2 years. So that's the restriction. Also, another difference is that your spouse is allowed to work in the United States. Children are not allowed to work in the United States. They can attend school. And again, children only under 21 years old. But the spouse can work. The same provisions apply as far as spouses from different countries. They'd get the same category. There shouldn't be any problem at all. And that's basically it. One of the things that the consulates often require when you submit a bachelor's degree from Australia, you must also show a course transcript. And the course transcript is all the courses you took to attain that degree. That's very, very important. Basically, that's the basic difference. Most people may have heard about this, but never apply for it for some reason. I don't know why. And but you are eligible to apply and obtain the visa if you qualify. All right. So if you're Australian, you're Canadian, you're a Mexican citizen, you have a university degree, and you can fill in one of the positions that's available for you, and you have a legitimate job offer from a legitimate employer, you should have no problem getting the visa. They're pretty liberal in giving these visas if you meet the qualifications. One thing I can assure you is that when you go to any consulate or embassy abroad, or even a border post, whether Canada, Mexico, or Australia, one of the things that the immigration officials will do is go on the internet once they see that job letter. They want to verify that the company exists, that it's a legitimate company, that it's in business. I've had cases that sometimes if they have any doubt, they will require the tax returns of the employer to verify they're actually not only in business, but they have sufficient income to pay the wage. Because there's people that will give you a letter sometimes, they'll say, oh, I can afford it, but then they don't pay tax. So they're very strict on enforcing that, to making sure that the employee is registered with the federal government, has a tax ID number, and actually pays taxes. All right. So as I said, if anyone has any questions regarding these particular types of visas or entries for Canadians, please send an email to john@johnnicelli.com. If we can answer, we will be happy to, or call us for a consultation, and we'll be happy to discuss it further. Thank you very much.
You've been tuning into Immigration Insider with your host, attorney John Nicelli. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, johnnicelli.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.